Yo guys, I've been working on this channel for 3 years now, and I am slowly sneaking up on 500,000 subscribers. And honestly, I absolutely love what I do here on YouTube. But did you know that after trying to learn the code, I suddenly gave up on it because it was too hard? For almost 10 years, I looked at coding as something that was just way too difficult for me to learn, and that I was not smart enough to learn it. But to understand this lack of confidence that I was going through, we have to turn the dial of time back to June, the summer of 2005. So it all started for me at the ripe age of 13. I was a gamer into all sorts of things like Grand Theft Auto, Kingdom Hearts, Halo, and the list goes on. At this time, the internet is still taking shape and G4 TV is your go-to place for gaming news and reviews. And after having an interest in wanting to make games, I was able to get my mom to buy me a little software called Game Maker 5 that, of course, allows you to make games. I got this thing and I was very ready to create the next blockbuster Grand Theft Auto mega hit. But after just a single day of trying to make a game, I realized that dream is very far away. Following this, I spent a week or two trying to make my very first game. And keep in mind that I had nothing but time being a 13-year-old on summer break, but it was incredibly hard. At the time, it felt like trying to learn Egyptian hieroglyphs, but my first ever project ended up being a little game called Rebound, a terrible remix take on Pong. And don't let this screenshot fool you. This game was barely even playable, and the goal made absolutely no sense whatsoever. But thankfully, I wasn't discouraged from this terrifying experience, and I joined the Game Maker forums to ask for help to get better at coding. 1 month later, in July of 2005, I finished a game inspired by my love of Smash Bros called Stick vs. Stick. Now, it also played terribly. The button presses didn't always register, the physics were unreliable, but it was actually playable. And it used 100% original assets. Look at that. Look, it's beautiful. It even had multiplayer. And I played the hell out of Stick vs. Stick with my little brother and sister. I give this game 3 out of 3 broken mechanics. In the next month of August 2005, I began to try and build the RPG game of my dreams. And I quickly learned about Project Scope. Or did I? I don't know, but I didn't get that far at all. And learning absolutely nothing from this, I started a Grand Theft Auto 2 inspired project by editing other people's example code. And I'm gonna be straight with you, this was actually a pretty cool prototype that I made at the time. But after trying to design a city, I realized just how much work it was and was like, nah. And I did what I do best still to this day and moved on to the next distraction. I also started to dabble with Blender, the 3D modeling software, for the first time, making some very impressive models as you see here. 3D game development was always my goal, and being able to make these had me more hyper than eating a family-sized bag of Skittles in just an afternoon. Yo, please, don't ever do this. In the next month of September 2005, I start to asset flip a 3D Game Maker demo in hopes to merge my expert 3D modeling skills into a 3D game. But it was just way too difficult for my tiny 13-year-old brain that barely just completed pre-algebra to wrap my head around. Like, how do I get this into this? It does not fit. Come on, get in there, get in there, get in there. So I quickly gave up on it. But I made a little maze game. That's cool, right? Following this, I started my first year of high school, leading to less time to learn coding. So during this time, I mostly just experimented. By December of 2005, I was getting better at using the Game Maker software. I was learning how to make cutscenes, how to use collision boxes, as well as some other stuff. And by February of 2006, I put out a nice demo of an RPG that I was working on. But a forum buddy of mine shared with me the source code to this Mega Man inspired game he made, and after getting really good at the craft of abandoning projects, I ditched that RPG and used his engine to make a platformer RPG of my own, releasing a demo for it in June of 2006, also marking 1 full year of being a game developer. Now look, when you're 13, 14 years old, a year feels like a decade, but in hindsight, it may not feel like I did, but I made a lot of progress in the year. And you know what? I'm proud of you, young bro. Good job, man. In August of 2006, I released a minigame called Nas, inspired by Need for Speed Underground 2, marking my third official game release. But this game was an achievement for me because it was simple, without bugs, and most importantly, a lot of fun. I also played the hell out of this game with my brother and sister. And what's most interesting to me is that you can find all types of popular apps like this on the App Store nowadays, which to this day makes me wonder what if I would have made this a Flash game instead and put it up on Newgrounds, which was on absolute fire in 2006. I mean, who knows? Instead of making YouTube videos, I might have been running a small little game studio about drag racing cars. But then September of 2006 hit. Here, I started the 10th grade, and I started to get more involved with being a teenager. You know, like doing sports, hanging out with the cool crowds to increase my social status, trying to present myself to be worthy enough for a date, and coding just was not viewed as something cool at my school. So I started to put a lot less time into it, and I definitely didn't share this passion with my classmates. Many months later in March of 2007, I think I kind of realized this neglect, and I released my fourth official game called Datavstir. It was like a 2-player rock, paper, scissors, brick breaker type of game. It was very weird, and I'm not gonna lie, not a fun game to play, but it was easy to complete, and it helped me feel good about my neglect. So I made it. April of 2007 was my first real dabble into artificial intelligence. The movie 300 came out a month before, and I absolutely loved it. And I became kinda obsessed with wanting to simulate action-packed battles like that. So I started to work on a project called For Sparta to watch 2 teams duke it out. Of course, I didn't get far. Here I learned that AI programming was really hard, but at least I tried. I also started a really cool Dragon Ball Z game that I'd been thinking about for a minute involving this new trick that I learned. And this was a really fun demo. I'm kinda mad that I didn't finish this to some capacity. But I guess I was getting really good at getting distracted by other ideas, and I couldn't just let that skill go to waste. June of 2007, and I released my 5th official game called Cells. Probably my most proud work at the time. Super excited and impatient for a game called Spore to come out, I start to try and make a clone of the beginning part of Spore because it was the easiest part to copy. And Cells ended up being okay. I tried playing it today and it's kind of broken, but I was proud of it because it had my first ever UI and a couple hours of gameplay. Takes me back, man. Good times, yo. Now, by this time, everything is going very well. It was a little over 2 years since I started to learn how to code. I am now 15 years old, and I now have some 5 games released with several demos and prototypes. So, as long as I keep this going, I'll have almost 10 years experience by the time I can legally drink alcohol. But what happened to me next made me completely drop everything and just quit coding. But before we continue, we gotta pay some bills really fast. Did you know that I couldn't stand eating cereal growing up? Because most cereal felt like I was eating candy for breakfast. But that's why I'm proud to announce that today's video is sponsored by Magic Spoon, a new take on cereal. It has 14 grams of protein and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. I don't really know what that means exactly, but I do know what it means when they say they have 0 grams of sugar per serving. They currently have 4 flavors: fruity, frosted, cocoa, and peanut butter. And honestly, after trying it, I don't know how they do it because they all taste true to their flavors. As someone who usually rolls their eyes when they hear sugar-free, they did a really good job with this. Is it magic? No, it's Magic Spoon. The 0 grams of sugar is my favorite thing about the cereal, but it's also keto friendly, gluten free, grain free, and soy free if you need that kind of stuff. Head on over to magicspoon.com/Jabrils to grab a variety pack and try it out today. And be sure to use the promo code Jabrils at checkout to get the old Lincoln discounts. Huh? The joke is that Lincoln is on the $5 bill. Okay, never mind. I wanted to have a food sponsor on this channel for a while now, so super thanks to Magic Spoon. And now back to why I quit coding. September of 2007. I released my 6th official game called Chips World, a platform RPG with a very simple story that I felt was long overdue to make. It was my most proud work at the time. Completely original assets, original music, original sound effects, very little to no bugs at all. There was a story, but most importantly, it was complete. You could actually beat this game and get some substance from it. So naturally, I wanted this game to be seen. I remember doing what I could to get people to play it and try it out, but it was really hard. Because you have to understand, indie games at this time was not really a thing. Steam wasn't a widely known place to buy small indie games yet. That wouldn't come for another 3 years. years. And I wouldn't dare running around my school telling people to try my games and lose all of my street cred. No way. And anything that wasn't pre-installed on your computer was considered to be a virus to most people at this time. So I was basically confined to the 10 or 20 comments that I'd get from the forums. But I wanted more people to play my games. I finally felt like my big break had arrived when I learned that a friend of mine's father was a software engineer. I finally knew someone that were paying their bills by coding. This man was my only hope for getting put in the right direction in terms of getting more serious with coding. And at the first opportunity that I got, I explained to him the problem that I had and asked him for help. And you know what he did? Well, friends, he was honest. He shared with me what he knew based on his experiences. Basically, he explained to me that developing games was stupid hard. You have to create an engine from scratch and all of the game assets for that engine, and then you have to market it and more. And listen, he was not wrong. Nowadays, you may be used to anyone and everyone being able to make games with little to no experience, but it wasn't always like this. You've got to understand that the two most popular softwares that game developers use to make their games didn't become free until 2009 and 2015 respectively. Before this time, it cost you thousands upon thousands of dollars if you wanted to make a game from scratch. But following this, he gave me this old software costing over $1,000 that the pros use to make games. So I was really excited to learn. But if I'm being honest, I was incredibly confused just trying to install the damn thing. I don't even remember if I was even able to get it successfully installed. And unfortunately, this event really discouraged me from continuing to learn how to code. And it basically made me force quit coding overnight. And after that, I kind of just stopped coding stuff and invested my time into sports and being a teenager, trying to get girls and stuff like that, going to parties and whatnot. It was a bit of a dark age for me that lasted almost 10 years. Although there was this one event that almost drew me back in. I played an online game that was made using Game Maker called Stick Online that I wanted to try and make my own online game. And thankfully, someone released an online game demo. And so I used this demo to try and compete with Stick Online. But after never being able to figure out how to add enemies properly, as well as not being able to figure out how to stop this one specific hacker that was so goddamn annoying, oh, curse you, you bastard, I hung up the coding towel for good with an Alt F4. I had officially moved on from coding. About a year later in 2008, I remember figuring out that one of my teachers made games, and I go up to him and ask him if he can teach me how to make 3D games. And he basically replies to me that he only makes Flash games and 3D games were just way over his head, just further cementing my decision to quit. And so now you're wondering what happened. Because I mean, clearly I didn't quit forever because this channel exists. Well, the full story is a little long and kind of tragic. Let me know if you want to hear it and I might make a video about it. But long story short, life circumstances drew me back to Game Maker. But I really quickly got tired of making 2D stuff. And somewhere in the process, I learned that I can make 3D stuff with the Unity software for free. But I was very doubtful in my ability to learn how to code for 3D and learn how to use an actual coding language. Because for many years, the only thing I was ever told from the people in my environment is that the big bad languages are very complex and very hard to learn. But thank God, I give it a shot anyway. And oh, wow, this ain't no big bad boogeyman. What y'all talking about? It's actually the same thing I've been doing for years, it's just using different names. I can't begin to tell you how surprised and excited I was to learn how much Game Maker coding knowledge actually carried over to learning an actual reputable coding language. I felt invincible, man. And within just a month, I released my first mobile game called Pizza Jump in 2015 and fell in love with coding all over again. And 2 years later in 2017, I start this channel in which to this day I am still trying to expand my knowledge with coding. And yeah, that's my story on why I quit coding. I quit basically due to not enough encouragement from my environment, and timing also played a little role in there as well. I was a couple years off from Unity going free. But nowadays, there's no excuse. Anyone can do this stuff, man. But I hope my story is a testament that you can do anything you want in this lifetime. Just make sure it's legal in the eyes of your local government. Although I do wish I would have found Unity a little earlier in life. I probably would be a monster at this point. The chips fell where they did, and honestly I wouldn't change a thing. I'm so happy to be in the position that I am today, and I want to thank you all for the support so far. Here is to another 2,000 years.